So, welcome everybody. It's very good to see you here. It's a very busy time in these last days before the break, and we appreciate very much you've taken the time out of your probably also very busy schedule to join us for these 2 hours. As already indicated in the registration form, we are recording this meeting. I hope this is okay for everybody. At least you probably tick the box that it's okay for you. If you really feel uncomfortable, of course, you can switch off your screen. Otherwise, it will be really nice if you can keep it on if we see you. And also maybe if you put your name, in case it's not there yet, into the on your where you can indicate your name. Great. We will also go a little bit later into breakout groups, so you will have the chance to talk to each other a bit. So then, of course, it's good if you can see each other and see each other's names. Right. My name is Anita. I coordinate the European Academy on Youth Work. That is it's a strategic cooperation project of national agencies, and it's the project that is behind this meeting. I work in Ljubljana in the national agency for Erasmus Plus, Youth Field, and the European Solidarity Corps. So welcome once more from my side to this meeting. The Academy is, just a couple of general words, has been working now for about 6 years already. We organize larger events every 2 years. The next one is coming up in May 26. And we organize smaller meetings like this one online or smaller workshops from time to time, all on the topic of supporting innovation in youth work across Europe at different levels. We also do research projects from time to time, and we also have invested more recently into creating educational tools for use in different youth work contexts. So in your teams or with the young people that you're working with. A few years ago, the COVID pandemic felt like a big disruption in our lives, right? But at the latest since then, if not before, it feels like disruption has almost become a constant condition in our lives. The world is changing really, really fast. And while we might feel positive about some of the changes we're seeing around us, much of what we see happening probably feels scary for some of us. It might feel out of our control. If we're looking at the big changes we're seeing, be that on the level of climate change or the wars and conflicts we see happening, and I don't know, the erosion of democratic societies, economic stagnation, and an aging population, of course, which has quite an effect on our field of work in particular, and on many other fields as well, of course. So in the Academy, we are asking, what do these changes and challenges that we see around us mean for youth work? How will youth work develop? How should it develop? And what do these developments and challenges mean individually for the youth workers and also collectively for the communities, for the organizations, and for the field as a whole? And we are in this project looking at these questions with the intention to offer ways, on the one hand, to better understand and to be more aware of the developments we're seeing and the needs, and also to offer spaces and approaches to tackle these questions and to support youth workers and youth work. To prepare, on the one hand, for the developments we're seeing in the field, yeah, and also maybe not just to prepare for what we are to adapt or to cope with these changes, but also, if possible, to take an active role and to see how we can influence the development of youth work and how youth work is shaping. So now we're organizing this series of 3 webinars, Meet Your Future, tools to navigate the future of youth work. And we will be presenting tools to you, and you will have the chance to taste a little bit some of these tools that were developed based on the outcomes of a research project we did in the Academy, which was called Futures of Youth Work. It was a research project we undertook in 23-24, and which looks at possible future scenarios of youth work. So imagining how youth work might develop in the future, or sensing how youth work might develop in the future. And it looks at the responses that youth work and youth workers could take today to prepare for these changes. And one important recommendation from this research report was to create spaces for conversations on this topic and to facilitate such conversations. The Academy has developed a set of tools, and all of these tools are collected in the Futures of Youth Work toolbox, which you will find also on our website. And I think I've also sent you the link already in the last email I sent. So in this first webinar, we will start introducing these tools and exploring these tools with you. And this webinar will focus on exploring different futures and the concept of future readiness. And we have two team members in the Academy, and that's Darko Markovic, who is here with us today. Yeah, he will introduce these tools to you today. We were also hoping to have Giselle Evra with us, who is the second team member who has cooperated with Darko on developing these tools, most of these tools. Unfortunately, Giselle got really sick overnight and cannot be here with us today. So you have to deal with us. We will try to take her place, Darko in particular, and lead you nevertheless through the webinar as foreseen. The tools we will introduce today are called 7 Types of Futures and 4 Quadrants of Future Readiness. Future readiness, for me, after all of these years of working for the Academy, is still a kind of a strange term sometimes. How can you get ready for a future that you don't know? So we will look a bit into what does that mean? What are we talking about? And maybe another last comment is that, of course, it's not about predicting the future at all. It's more looking at possible futures. You will see in particular when we look at the 7 types of future, what we mean. But also the future, as much as the today, is different here from what is there. It can be today in one place, it can be in the future, it can be later in another place. So we are speaking very often about futures with an S in the plural rather than with the future. Because it can be different things, and of course we do not know where we are heading. Before I hand over, just a quick word to introduce our other 2 team members. We have with us also Sabrina. Sabrina is here to support us digitally mainly and to help you get back to the session in case you drop out, and many other things. And we also have Domagoj Moric with us, in charge of communication, also with the Academy, and today more supporting us with the documentation of this meeting. With this, I hand over to Darko. I wish you will have a good time for the next couple of hours with us. I hope you enjoy. Let's go.
Thanks a lot, Sonia, and thanks Sabrina and Domagoj for supporting. Yes, we cannot be fully ready for what is coming because we actually don't know what is fully coming. But some things we can sense already in the present, some things which are already a little bit emerging as seeds of the future. And as Sonia said already in her introduction, the Academy, one of the projects or products of the Academy was its research project, which is called Futures of Youth Work. And Sonia mentioned it already briefly, but if you go in depth into this report of the Future Foresight research, we looked at different societal trends and trends, not just societal, but general trends that might be influencing how future of youth work might evolve. And actually, this future foresight project actually gave more questions than answers. Yes, we made some scenarios, possible scenarios, how evolution of youth work might be in relation to different trends. But at the same time, it is about starting a conversation about how do we do youth work today, how future ready it is still, what do we need to rethink, maybe reinvent, and maybe transform. So in the end of the day, you can see this future foresight research as a conversation starter, something that you can take on board in your team or in your organization or in your youth community or ecosystem, and start conversations about future. So you can see it as a catalyst. The research report also outlines a number of strategies for future readiness. And one of those strategies was about how to get more future literate, basically how to speak the language of the future and how to get more friendly with the future, even if you don't know exactly what is coming. So how to get more prepared, more ready, more skillful in understanding what's coming in. And for that, as Sonia mentioned, we created what is called Futures Toolbox. I think Sabrina will share the links in the chat. And in this Future Toolbox, you can see 6 different tools. Today, we will explore the types of future and 4 quadrants of future readiness. But in the following 2 webinars, we will actually try out another 4 tools. So altogether is 6 tools in the Future Toolbox. Some of the tools are also printed. So for example, the one that we will try today, they also printed physically on these lovely cards. So this is 7 types of future, or the questions from the 4 quadrants. In the end of the webinar, Sonia will tell you what's the possibility to get these printed cards in your physical mailbox. So stay with us till the very end. So for the very beginning, I will ask you one simple question. Come back to your reality, where you're sitting right now in your place. And how does the word future sounds in your place? So where you're sitting right now, and what's your first reaction when you hear the word future, maybe in your language? So when you hear the word future in your own language, what's your first reaction? And please share this in the chat. So what's your first reaction to the word future? Insecurity, challenges, exciting, scary. Technology, unknown, positive, something to come. Zukunft, change is needed, opportunity. And when you're reading these words in chat, you can already sense how this resonates in you. How do you relate to this? And perhaps some people share your feelings, some people have a completely opposite feeling. And that's something what each time we touch the topic of future, we always get this different reactions. Perhaps maybe the reason for that is that there are different futures and different types of future. And this is what we are going to explore right now. So the very first tool that we're going to explore in this webinar is called 7 types of future. And might be maybe interesting for you to know that there is no one future. Probably there are more. But in terms of typology, we can say that at least there are 7 types of future. And even thinking that way widens our horizons, widens our understanding about future and what's coming. So perhaps some of your emotions are related to certain types of future, and maybe some other emotions are related to other types of future. We'll explore this together. So, coming back, 7 types of future. Typically, we think about future as something that comes after the present. We just discussed in the team how it's difficult to think about future without thinking about the present and the past. Even though somehow, if there is no present, probably there is no future. But very often also we got stuck in what we know. We got stuck in the past, we got stuck in the present, and sometimes we think the future, we just replicate what we already know. And this is something what we can see in the future type, which is called, for example, plannable future. People think of what we can plan, what's under our control. That's a plannable future. Projected future would be very much about, okay, what we already know, like a business as usual, so we just replicate it and we do very similar thing in the future or in the past. We can also think about future in terms of preferable future. For example, we have our preferences. We would like to have a future of certain kind. We have more wishes about certain future. So preferable future is the most positive future that we desire. But at the same time, you can also say there's probably also unpreferable future or undesirable future as the opposite of that one. Then we can also think about possible future or probable future. So knowing what we know, what we believe is possible or what's probable, it's a little bit different. So you're already sensing a different feeling when you get into that kind of thinking. There could also be a potential future, something that is even far more than plannable, something that's even further more than imaginable. So what's the potential? Something that might become, that we are not certain that it will become, that doesn't replicate the past and the present, but something that might become. But then there is also something interesting, and maybe when people think of scary and these kind of things, there is something which is called an upcoming future, something that will happen no matter what. So whatever we do, or whether we don't do anything, some things will happen no matter what. And maybe this puts you sometimes in the situation that you feel a little bit like of sense of control, sense of like a little bit lack of sense of agency. But this is just a part of the bigger puzzle of the future. And there's also something which is called emerging future, something that maybe is not so clear at the moment, but we sense that there's some seeds of the future to be crystallized. And if we open our ears and open our senses beyond what we know, maybe we can sense the seeds already in the present. This is a little bit like how we instructed people who been our so-called signal spotters in the research that I mentioned before. So we asked them to open their ears and open their antennas and sense the signals of the future in the present. So sensing what's coming. So emerging future is a little bit like that. So you need to just sense, tune in what is coming. So these are 7 types of future. They're also nicely printed on these 7 cards, but they're not just concepts. So what we would like for you today is to taste a little bit how it feels to interact with some of those 7 types. So we will be splitting you soon in 7 groups, and you will get a mirror board. Sabrina will share it in a second to show you. On the mirror board, each group, you'll get one of those 7 types of the future. Yeah? And there will be a possibility for you to read what's written on these little cards. So what's the definition of that type of future? But it's not just a head exercise. So it's not just a reading. So we ask you to tune into your feelings. So when you meet that type of future, how does it feel for you? Yeah? How does it feel for you? And then you will get some extra questions there in the mirror board about what are the signals that are pushing us towards this future. So what you can sense in the present already, and what's happening in the context, who are the actors, and if you imagine that kind of future, what could be young people's need in that future. You will have more explanation in the mirror board. Maybe I let Sabrina show. So in your groups, you will have about 20, maximum 25 minutes to explore. And on the mirror board, please put your post-its according to these different questions. But before going to post-its, you need to explore how to get to this type of future, and Sabrina will explain you that with the mirror board. Maybe I will ask one person from each of the seven just to share one, let's say, main impression, maximum 2 sentences of impressions from this, from dealing with this type of future. So just a short mini feedback, so how it felt to meet that kind of future. So the first board was the projected future, and in the card this orange card. So you can just raise your hand if you were in that group and maybe share 1 or 2 impressions. How was it for you to work in that group or in that future? So projected future. Anybody wants to share? Voice your feeling about this future.
Yeah, maybe I can say, in general, I think it will be a negative one, because if everyone is living in their comfort zone and are not willing to change, it will go on, and the problems of today will be worse, and also it will affect the young people who have to deal with the mess we leave them with. So if they're, and you can see that a lot of people feel helpless. They think like the system is too big to change. So everyone is like not changing at all.
Mm.
And I think we all are part of this. And so I desperately, me personally, feel like everyone needs to change
We need a
and do
different
something
kind.
about it.
Mhm.
But, like the system is so strong. And I think also sometimes it's about leaving your comfort zone.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Perdita. This is a flavor of how it feels when you are in the projected future conversation. And let's see what other types are there. So the next one was plannable future, and the cards is this blue card. So maybe what were your experiences, feelings, main impression from plannable future?
Hello.
Yes, please.
I was part of this group. So the general feeling and idea was that this kind of future is easier to deal with, and because it feels smaller. This is the word that we use. Like it's not the big picture or the big scale, but it's short term. So we feel more empowered, like to planning and to know what to do in the short term. We feel empowered to shape it and to know what to do. And also we felt that it makes our work easier, like to planning and to use like tools. We also mentioned digital tools and technology to make it easier, let's say, to predict. And we really hope that youth workers and the target groups, so participants and youngsters, can really shape this future and not the other way around, like the technology will shape us.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Federica. You immediately sense a different kind of feeling than from the first one. So this one is much more under, at least we have impression that it's much more under our control. Okay, so we go to the future type number 3, which is the possible or probable future, which is in the green card, like that. Maybe somebody shares feelings from that group. What was your main impression?
Maybe I can go.
Yes, please, Mariana, thanks.
When talking about this subject, our group immediately started talking about, for example, environment, technological changes, and maybe societal problems, because this future is in the short term. And it arose in us a lot of paradoxical feelings, and our discussion was about navigating these paradoxes. On one hand, we have uncertainty, on the other hand, we have optimism. How do we navigate through this to get to for example, the children and help them? What tools are we giving? How are we going to direct our knowledge and our teachings and our motivations towards change? So I think this is the summary of what happened in our group discussion.
Thanks a lot. So it feels like in that one, there's already two sides of a coin coexisting together. So we go to the number 4, which is a slightly different one, which is called upcoming future, something that will happen no matter what. So who was in that group and how it felt there? Upcoming future.
I can say something.
Yes, Dasha, please.
Well, it seems really scary that it's just coming and you can't prevent it. So when you just think about it, that you need to be prepared when it comes, that's a really scary thought.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It might bring the good stuff, it might bring the bad stuff, but there are things maybe we are beyond our control. And some things are kind of irreversible in a way, but it's part of the future landscape. So we cannot just eliminate that possibility as well. Thanks a lot. We go to future type, which is called preferable future, something that you prefer to see in the future.
In this group, we all work across different settings, but there's a general consensus, I think, that a preferred future for young people would look like youth work being widely recognized, supported, well-funded, the needs of young people being met, and the young people being the main drivers of what good youth work looks like. And our feelings around this, generally, we're feeling quite hopeful and optimistic about achieving this kind of future.
Thanks a lot, Leona. This is exactly the feeling that preferable future typically elicits. I would say that's the word. Probably there's a flip side of it. It's an unpreferable future. When you think of, okay, what we don't want to happen in the future would be another kind of the flip side of that. So we go now to the 6th type, which is the emerging future, when you have to a little bit sense what's coming without actually knowing yet. So how it feels to work with that. What's emerging in the present?
I can go if the
Please,
other
Tomas.
okay with that. Yes, it was a little bit. We had a little bit of struggle to not fall into the negative view of the future, and one of the main focus was about technology and global politics, about the signal and drivers, because we felt that they were the main driver of change, and we try to not stay, as I said, on the negative perspective of them. Actually, let me open the Miro again so I can see the notes. And the other signal that we tried to focus on were the youth needs, both for connection and for mental health. So following this path, it emerged a future where we give to each local context enough focus to receive the specific needs that they need. Sorry for the repetition.
Yes.
So a youth work that can respect the specific needs of each different ambient of work. Okay,
Thanks a lot.
and try to engage with youth with technology, or even without. So trying to bring them out of the digital world, we'd say. And yes, we didn't finish the last two boxes because it was a lot to do in a few minutes. But
yes,
the emerging future was we tried to focus on the signal of the present to create to see we can be led to.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Exactly, that's what's needed when working with this type of future. You need to go a little bit beyond and to at least temporarily leave aside what you know. Yeah. What you mentioned now, Tommaso, I think is interesting. Probably you can work with this emerging future more in your own context, in your local context, or where actually you belong. So it's very difficult maybe to work with emerging future in the world as a whole. So, but when you plug in yourself in your community where you belong, maybe you have more signals, maybe more sensing of what's coming. Interestingly, I think in this type of future, I was looking in the mirror board and somebody said in the beginning, we have to align with the speed of youth. So with the speed, with the pace young people are moving. I think that's this alignment kind of also creates this resonance of what's coming. And sometimes young people themselves are those signals of the future that is coming. So the last one was our potential future. It's in this kind of purple, kind of bluish cards. Who can share with that? How was there in our potential future? There's also longer term.
I was there. We didn't really discuss if Karsten or I am going to present, but Karsten, shall I, or would you like to?
Go, Neda, go.
Okay, so I'll go. So basically, we were discussing that because there is something written in the description for an in-depth reflection on our place in a larger environment. So we were revolving basically around the topic of young people feeling hopeful, optimistic, and being able to realize their own strengths and their mission based on these strengths in the world. So in a way to have this perspective, or how to say, like, perception that even one person can change something. And basically, we were feeling positive. This description, this future made us feel positive, optimistic, encouraging. And we were discussing, for example, some forces that will push us toward this future. Something really important is the state and also the environment. So we were thinking that maybe for this future to be possible, we need the environment to be very supportive, and to also all of us to be able to think in possibilities and not in limits, and to be able to find new solutions. Also, somebody mentions that it will be important for young people to engage in policy making, so that in this way they can shape the future. There should be discussion between generation as well. We were also discussing that there will be a need for more empowerment in order to reach this future. And then we were discussing that if we live in this future, we would have to take in account also AI, and there will be different ways in youth work and society. And in order to reach this future, and when we actually reach this future, youth work should focus also more on empowerment and strength-based approach. And there will be also many different ways to grow and to get education. We're also discussing about the actors. We again mentioned AI, it will be one of the actors. State and youth work organization, international agencies, and young people themselves. And about the needs of young people, so we're discussing that they would probably need career orientation, and orientation in general, maybe about their mission, and mentors instead of teachers. So I'm not sure if I summed it up really well. So if somebody from my group wants to add something.
I think it was perfect, Neda. Thanks a lot. Actually, thanks to all the brave ones who spoke in this scary main room on Zoom. It's not so easy sometimes to speak up in the big digital room full of unknown people. But it's interesting how actually it's the first time for us also to do this exercise in digital environment. We used to do this in a workshop setting when you can actually physically relate to these types of future. So thanks a lot for tasting this exercise together with us, it feels it's possible to generate really fruitful reflections for such a short time. Coming back to this, what Neda just said about thinking of in terms of possibilities, not just in terms of limitations, it also brings us back to the question, what conditions are we creating for young people to be able to think that way? And talking about conditions, this is something what we will actually tackle in the next tool that we will taste with you in this webinar. But before we go there, we actually will have 4 minutes, 4 minutes stretching break. So you can take a glass of water, you can stretch. So 11:10, we continue with the second tool. So take a glass of water, stretch, do something nice for your body, for yourself, and be back at 11:10. So in 4 minutes. See you. When the music stops, we continue with our webinar, which explores 2 tools from the Futures Toolbox. The first one that we've just seen and tried together is 7 types of future. Of course, in reality, you can do it in very different ways. As Katarina was asking, how to use it with the young people in their context. Is it useful to set some time frames for these discussions or for these concepts, so where they belong? Yes, maybe time frames could be useful. It's difficult maybe to say in exact years. Maybe if it feels right in your context, you can set it in time frames of years, but maybe it's easier to set it in a shorter term, medium term, longer term types, if you prefer and if it helps the discussion that you are hosting in your context. So context is really important and matters. And when it comes specifically to some of the types of future, what are we having as strong signals in our contexts might block our thinking in terms of possibilities and in terms of different futures. So just be mindful that when you're hosting these kind of conversations, that you actually allow people to think beyond the present. So especially if the present is too scary. So yeah, we're coming towards the second tool that we will taste today from the toolbox. It feels almost like a chocolate box. So we take another chocolate from a chocolate box and we give it to you. So we ask you how it feels. Is it good? So, and this one is called 4 Quadrants of Future Readiness. Yeah, 4 quadrants is a nice thing, but the big word there is future readiness. And let's talk a little bit about that before we go into the quadrants. So if you remember our question from the beginning, how it feels, what's your first reaction when you hear the word future in your language? This is the word cloud from your reactions from the chat. So Domagoj, thanks for that. It's just a little summary of your own reactions of this group, how it feels when you hear future. And yeah, for a lot of people, as you can see, insecurity, excitement, challenge, unknown, scary, these are the main things. So the bigger the letters, the more frequent this was in this group. But you can see also some other unpredictable again, positive, challenge, technology, very digital, hard work, etc., etc. So the question is that we've been asking ourselves in this research and in the academy events, how future ready are we? And you can ask this question personally, like how future ready I am as a person, what's my feeling, how future ready I am, no matter how you understand future readiness. And also question is, what do you mean by future ready? Is it more about being ready for change, being ready to think beyond limitations like we just spoken, being more in a sense of agency, based on what? So actually, what's future readiness? It's also a big question. But the moment we ask question, how future ready are we, for example, as youth workers, immediately feels very confrontative. So it feels like we're asking every single youth worker, how future ready are you? Which is actually not complete picture and maybe not totally fair. So this is not just an individual question. So when we speak about future readiness, it's not only, it is about, but it's not only about your mindset, about your skills, about your competencies, about how your practices might be different. So this is part of that. But to be fair and to be complete, we need to ask the same question also collectively. So it's not only about individuals to be future ready, but also how collectively, as a field of practice, as a team, as organization, or as a whole youth work ecosystem in your environment or in your context, how do we all get future ready? And what conditions we need to create to be future ready? So it is both individual and collective question. And this thinking led us to the 4 quadrants. So when you think of that question, how future ready are we, you can ask it on individual level and on collective level. So the upper 2 quadrants are referring to individuals, and the lower 2 quadrants are referring to collective. No matter your collective is, it could be a team, your organization, your ecosystem, your community of practice. So, and also on the vertical, you can also see there are some things which are kind of more internal, some things that reflect, some reflections which are kind of more inside of yourself or more inside of our community body. So something that is inner, more kind of inner work, and something that is more external, something that is more visible, something that is more outer work, as we call it. So the 4 quadrants are directing our attention that actually this question has 4 aspects or 4 sub-questions, so to say. It's not just one. And when considering future societal changes and the need for youth work, we need to respond to them. How can we get ready as individuals, and how can we get ready collectively? And for that, in the original exercise, and I will share this with you later, we developed a number of set of questions that actually go in each of those 4 quadrants. But we will share with you these cards also later. We'll go a little bit with the detour now, and asking you in your groups, in maybe different groups than before, to brainstorm about questions, not to brainstorm about the answers, but to brainstorm about the questions. So for example, what questions you can ask about future readiness at individual level that is tackling some more inner side of a person. Yeah, something like a mindset, for example, beliefs and things like that. Or what questions you can ask at individual level for the outer work, something about skills, practices, methodologies, something that you do, basically. And then also collectively. So what questions you can ask innerly about, okay, what's our culture? For example, what are our values? What are principles? Maybe purpose. How is our purpose doing as a youth work in society and in the future? How future ready are we in these terms collectively? And maybe in terms of outer work, what's needed to be there? What strategies, what policies, what conditions needs to be created in the field so the field gets future ready? So we will ask you in your groups, and you will have 15 minutes, so it will be a shorter exploration this time, to go to another mirror board. And when you get to this mirror board, you will get this empty quadrant. collectively, all groups working in the same quadrant. But we'll ask you to put post-its, to use post-its, like in the previous exercise, just take post-its yourself and share examples of what questions we can ask individuals and what questions we can ask collective. And then maybe think about, is this more inner question or more outer question? It's a little bit practicing future thinking, exploration in this way. So, having said that, Sabrina will share with you the link, and maybe you can also show the Miro board for this exercise. And
Exactly.
you will have 15 minutes to brainstorm on questions in your groups.
Exactly. So most of you already found. I'm just sharing quickly how it looks like, but I think you will explore yourself. No, you see the quadrant and you take a post-it here from the toolbar on the left, and there you can just put it here, for example. Yeah. Perfect. This time we have 6 people in each group, so it's actually 8 groups. Sometimes there's people not joining, which I don't know before, and then I might be moving you to another, but let's try like that because we only have 15 minutes this time. I open the rooms.
Welcome back. And thanks for your contribution. If you saw it as a bee house generating a lot of questions on the 4 quadrants. In the chat, you can share maybe what was your feeling. How was it? How was this actually to generate these questions for you in last 15 minutes? So just share in the chat what was your first impression, reaction, emotion. How was this exercise for you? And then we'll continue from there. So how was it for you? Share it in the chat. Mm-hmm. Challenging, fun, interesting. People care about the future of youth. Insightful. Okay. Yeah. Enjoyable, confronting. Thanks a lot. It was very fruitful as we saw it from the outside. Thanks a lot for generating a lot of questions, both on individual and collective level. It felt for a moment there's a lot of, still a little bit more weight on the individual level, that there is much easier to ask this question still. So how future ready are you? And what do you need more differently to be more future ready? The danger with that question is that people feel in some kind of performance anxiety situation again, that we're not good enough to meet future. So what is very important actually is not just asking what do we need to ask differently, but maybe what do we have now as resources that might be very helpful in the future that is coming. So what are we strong at that actually could be still very, very useful? At the same time, you might also ask questions, okay, what do we need to change? What doesn't work anymore? Maybe the context change differently or more dramatically. So maybe not everything, as we know from the past, is still working. But it's very important to have also this acknowledgement. What do we hold on? What's the core? What are we standing on that we can still use in the future? So coming back to the exercise as we design it in the toolbox, we have gave you some prompts. Although you can use the exercise whatever suits your group of young people, your organization, whoever are the people that you're having these conversations with. But we give you some prompts in sense what could be the content of each of the quadrants. So for example, if you look at the individual inner work, we are asking a lot of questions around future-ready mindset. Similarly, like your questions that were there. How flexible are you? How ready are you to think differently? And so on and so on. So youth workers' awareness about what are these societal trends that are going around youth work bubble. And this is where our research that we mentioned in the very beginning comes into picture. So you can use the quotes from that research, you can use some scenarios from that research, and just to raise awareness. Okay, so how aware are we in what's going on? You can also ask the same question collectively within your organization. So it's not only individually how aware I am, but also how aware are we as a collective. Similarly, with the question of identity, you can ask it collectively, is the identity of youth workers changing in our community or is about to change? Or how do I feel about change of youth work identity? So for example, in the research, we have one demographic trend that possibly, if the demographic figures remain like today, that in 2030, 2050, especially by 2050, will be much less young people than we know today. So maybe youth work or youth workers become more kind of intergenerational workers somehow, so which changes the identity. So if you think about that possibility in terms of these possible futures, how do you feel about that? Or maybe differently. So what does technology actually do? And what does technology, shifts in politics, shifts in education, and other trends are influencing the identity changes? In the individual level outer work, it's a lot about how our practices are still valid. Do we need to change, rethink, renew, innovate? The academy itself was actually promoting a lot of innovation in youth work, and this is actually one of the fields where academy is strongly addressing since its very beginning. So tools, methods, do we need to innovate, change? How are tools and methods still working? And a lot of you also asked about competencies, skills. What skills we need to develop? Which skills are still valid? Which skills will be needed in the future following the changes? And on the collective side, underneath, you can still wonder, okay, so what about our principles, our values, how they're still standing? So what do we need to rethink? Maybe review, perhaps maybe add. Talking about patterns is a little bit like collective mindset. If mindset is in the person, then maybe patterns are more like collectively. So somebody was talking about thinking in limitations. Thinking in limitations could be a mindset, a personal one, but could be a pattern in the collective. In our organization or in our community, are we thinking in limitations collectively? And where is this coming from? And perhaps we need to outgrow that in the future. Then the question is about, okay, what's the purpose of youth work and how is it still standing? Is societal role of youth work still valid? Or maybe it's shifting. So how do we feel about that? And on the outer work collectively, it's a lot about policies and strategies. So what kind of policies and strategies we need to be more future ready as a field? Or what kind of support structures, what kind of programs are needed? What conditions are needed externally also for the field and for the individuals to be more future ready? So what connections we need to build, maybe with other sectors, maybe beyond the youth work bubble, or maybe connections within our own sectors. So what connections we need to build in order to be more future ready? These are just prompts. Of course, there are many more topics for discussion in these 4 quadrants. In the cards that we also produced for each of those 4 quadrants, they're like this. You can find questions like this. For example, in the individual inner, to what extent are current ways of thinking future ready? How open are we to changes that are coming to us? What do we need to develop more? Individual outer, which skills and competencies will be necessary for doing youth work in the future? Which competencies do we need to develop? Collective inner, how might the purpose of youth work and its societal role change, considering the emerging societal trends and changing needs of young people? Collective alter. Which support structures and programs in our context, community, country, European level, could create better conditions for youth work evolution? These are just examples of the cards that you will get. So coming back a little bit to closing moments of our webinars. We hope you enjoyed this tasting of these two tools. Sabrina will share again the link in the chat, unless you didn't do it already. How can you download the tools from the toolbox on the Academy website, also the research report. But some reminders about how to use it in your own environment, your own context, because immediately when you're confronted with these kind of tools, you're wondering, okay, how can I use it with my groups of young people or with my colleagues back in the organization? So just a couple of reminders. So as we said, the tools and the research that the tools are based on a lot doesn't claim that we actually dare to predict the future. So when we do the future foresight research like we did, it's not a fortune telling. It's not a glass crystal ball looking. Nobody knows that fully how youth work will actually evolve, but it doesn't stop us to have these conversations. So these tools are offering guidance and framework to explore, let's say, multiple possibilities, approaches, widen our understanding, and embrace maybe uncertainties. And also by doing that, kind of build a more reflected sense of agency. So instead of believing, yes, we are strong, we can influence the future fully, maybe wondering, okay, so what are we basing our sense of agency on? And perhaps reflecting about what we have now, what can change, what we can still keep, what we need to innovate, how ready are we, builds also a sense of agency in ourselves and in our collectives. As some of you said already, context matters. So what's innovative in one context, maybe it's not innovative anymore in another context. What's short-term here, it's not short-term there. What's long-term here, it's not long-term there. So your context matters. Your political situation matters. Your cultural situation matters. Needs of young people. So situate these discussions in your own context. And as we said, also working with and on futures require commitment and collective space to go beyond one-off reflections or experimentation. We need to embed future thinking meaningfully, which means to create time, safe space for these discussions and necessary motivation to engage with uncertainty and complexity. So in a way, we need to create conditions. It's not just doing the tools for the sake of tools, but create conditions when actually we can think beyond what we currently know without fear. And maybe a couple of tips. So working with these tools can support you or your groups that you're discussing these future related issues to shift more from being reactive to kind of more reflective. So instead of fighting back, defending, being in kind of defensive mode, trying to for what's coming, maybe to waiting for the storm to pass in a way, we can be more proactive and think together. Okay, so how we are dealing with this, how are we handling with this? Actually, in the forthcoming webinars, you will see one of the tools which actually exactly is discussing this issue and addressing this issue. How do I relate to future changes? But this is also a shift from individual to collective, as you saw it now in the 4 quadrants. So we don't asking people only how future ready are you, but also how future ready are we collectively, and what collectively we do to support ourselves collectively, but also to support individuals to develop what's needed. So we can work collaboratively. So use these tools for collaboration and co-creation. to strengthen creativity and to strengthen innovation. And what's interesting, you can generate stories. So, for example, if you take into account the first tool that we tried today, the 7 types of future, you can actually create stories about youth work in the future. So, what is the preferable future of youth work and how that story will sound, or what's the upcoming future of youth work and how that story will sound, what's the emerging future of youth work and how that story will sound. So create stories. I think this also creates future more kind of tangible, more concrete. The tools obviously will help you and others create more future literacy. How do we think of future? How do we speak about future? It gives also language a little bit, how we deal with future. And it can also be possibilities to connect practice with strategy. So it's not only practice, but also thinking in a long-term responses. So how strategically we deal with what's coming, what future is bringing to us as challenges. So many of these tools could be very suitable to use with young people themselves to support their imagination, their capacity to navigate their own futures. So in that sense, we wish you a good luck and a good exploration with this toolbox. So I really hope this was a good tasting opportunity. We said it's just a tasting of the chocolates from the chocolate box. Probably needs more time for some of those, but we'll ask you to take them, adjust them, and use them in your context as it suits them. Having said that, we have just a couple of ending points where we come before the moment when Sonia will announce next steps. We would like to hear with you and from you, how was this first webinar in this series for you? So Sabrina will share a small Menti just to give us a feedback so we can see what to change, what to improve in the next 2 webinars that are coming. And we'll tell you in a second when the next 2 webinars are coming. Maybe just few minutes to fill in the Mentimeter questions, and we thank you for your feedback and participation in advance. Just bear with us for another 5-7 minutes. This is the moment to unmute, actually. Thanks a lot for the feedback in Mentimeter. This is the moment to save the date. So the next webinar in the series, Meet Your Future, Tools to Navigate the Future of Youth Work, will be in January, so 22nd of January. The focus will be widening horizons and shifting perspectives. Then we will taste another 2 tools, which is 3 Horizons and Window to the Future again. And the last webinar in this series, on this trilogy, will be the one dealing with change on 12th of February, where we'll explore the fields of change, and the one that I mentioned already before, how do I relate to future changes. So for those who stayed, you get also information from Sonia about how to get the physical cards, but also some more practical information. So Sonia, back to you.
Thank you, Darko. So yes, a few last words from my side. Thanks so much for staying up to now. I can only warmly recommend that if you found these little tasters interesting, that you check out the Futures Toolbox on our website, where you can see the different approaches also described of how you can use these tools. You can download the cards, of course, that's the easiest. But yes, you can also write to us in Movet. Maybe Sabrina, you can quickly put my email in the chat. Write to me, just send me a message, and then we will take it further from there. If you're interested in these cards, we will ask you a couple of questions, and then that's possible. So that's about the cards. The second thing I wanted to say at the end of this webinar is that, yes, you will see we have recorded everything. We will make the recording available. It will take a moment, of course, but we will make it available for you. We are also collecting the documentation, the script from the webinar with all the different inputs. And we will also produce a little article about it. So we will share all of this with you afterwards, maybe not immediately tomorrow, but in a very short time from now. Then I know there's always a question, do we get a youth pass from this webinar? It's a question that's usually up in the air. We will do it, we always do it like this, that if we have a series of webinars coming up, like this one, we have 3 webinars in a row. We will take note of who was there, and then we will issue a youth pass at the end for those who would like to get one. And it will refer to the webinars you attended, of course. If that's 2, that's 2. If it's 3, it's 3, or 1, that's all fine. But we will not do it after everyone. Individually, we will wait until the end. Otherwise, it's becoming too tedious. If there's really an urgent need by somebody who needs it absolutely to present some kind of a certificate at work or in your education institution or wherever, get in touch and we will see how we can handle it. That's possible. That's it from my side. Maybe one last thing I wanted to say. I mean, Darko already mentioned the dates of the webinars. You will find them also at our website and our Facebook page. You can always click there and you will find it. Be aware, just a note of caution, we are restructuring the website at the moment. So some of the individual links might change, also those that we have posted today in the chat. But you will certainly easily, probably more easily than now, find what you're looking for. So be that the research, Futures of Youth Work, be that the Futures Toolbox, those are very clearly indicated on the main page of our website. Also, I have mentioned at the beginning that our next big event is coming up in May 26, and we will publish the call for participants this week. So if you're interested, look out for it on our Facebook page or Instagram page, our website. That's it from my side. Thank you very, very much for coming today, for taking the time. We know it's busy and there are loads of other things to do. On behalf of the whole team, I would really like to wish you a very nice holiday season. And yes, we're looking forward to seeing you back, if possible, in January for the next webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Enjoy.
See you in the future.